having a late night meal, waiting for my guests, and we're gonna get straight into it. Um, Let me check that I'm public on my desktop here. Sometimes I'm thinking I'm live, and then only I can see it. So make sure everyone can see it. Mm, Um, yep, there we go. What's up, brother?
Hey brother, how you doing?
All right, just eating a little late night snack or meal. Some lentils and rice.
Okay, okay. Yeah, do your thing. I'm just up, just looking forward to a conversation. Lot
So
to catch up
how you
on,
feeling?
man.
Is the rehab taking well?
Yeah, it's getting better day by day. Still not 100% all the way, but each day it gets better.
Yeah.
Just trying
I
to
mean,
think positive.
you
Um,
never know. You might have to get like. I always joke with people when they get injured, like, well, maybe they'll give you some bionic replacements.
maybe, who knows? But not fun.
Yeah,
Through what I went through, definitely not fun. But
I know. I can imagine. Well,
but
what's up, Carlton? That's one of my mods. He's a good guy.
okay, okay. How you doing, Carlton? Man, a lot to catch up on, man. I've been following your lives. A lot of
Did you
things.
catch the one yesterday? It was kind of long, pause, but it was actually good. Like it was a lot of people in the chat room, which was unusual,
Hmm.
and which was actually good because that topic, talking about education and and in the black community was something just, pretty important to me. Like for me, it's not just like an intellectual chat. It was like something like I'm trying to give advice because it's so much misinformation given uh online. And like, a lot of these, a lot of guys gravitate to the red pill spaces, to the manosphere. And the manosphere is not always great on talking about education.
Hmm.
And, I consider myself in a red pill space, but I don't agree with a lot of the, we talked about this before. I don't agree with a lot of the information they gave. And
Hmm.
so I talked about that, but I wanted to tailor it specifically to like black folks because, often, I get a mixed crowd and I like that I have a mixed crowd, but often they'll steer the conversation away from where I wanted to originally be. I wanted to keep it on the black community because I can't talk about other communities and their problems. Like I can talk about it in generalities, but I can't go into the specifics of problems in their community that may be unique to them and not unique to us. So I wanted to talk about stuff that was unique to us. So it was a pretty good chat. And I think I went through the full gambit of things I wanted to discuss from, the lack of support that college bound black children get in the black community to the fact that once they are in college, they don't know how to leverage it correctly to get into, good positions to be successful. And, and the fact that the black community itself doesn't value higher education, which is why we're in the place that we are. And some people was challenging me on some things, but it wasn't disrespectful. Like it was like, like when people were talking with me, like even when they disagree with me, it was mostly, yeah, I mean there were trolls, but it was mostly like respectful disagreements. Like people was like, well, what is soft power and stuff like that. And I was trying to explain to them how soft power works. And I was saying like we, in our society is built on credentialism today. And I was like, it goes too far. Like anytime now, daycare workers need a degree. I was like, that's ridiculous. A daycare worker, you're just a glorified babysitter. Like you shouldn't need, you shouldn't need like a 2 year or even or worse, a 4 year degree to give kids some apple juice and some Lunchables. and sit them in front of a TV with some video games and toys and watching them for a few hours. Like that's ridiculous. But I was like, on the other hand, when we're talking about soft power, it comes through higher education, and they disagree with me. And I was like, the reason it comes through higher education is because higher education leads you into those prestigious jobs where you can make connections and network with other higher value people, and that puts you in a position where you have more social political leverage. And I was like, that's what soft power is about. And I gave like a specific example. I said, showing how the black community lacks soft power. I gave a clear, I don't know if you saw this on the live, but I said one of the examples is there has been like an anti-black uh crime legislation sitting in Congress since like somewhere between the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and it has not been pushed through. So for over a century, we've been trying to get that passed, and we have how many black Democrats in office,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't get that done. We've even had a so-called black president in office,
So
didn't get
called,
that
yes.
done. Right. We even had a so-called black female who ran for office, and she was even asked, would you try to, push a bill like that into office? I think it was either about that or reparations, and she was like, no. She's like, I'm not doing stuff just for black people. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
And then she wonders
think
why
I'm
she
not doing
lost my
things for
vote.
black people. No, yeah, yeah.
And but she, and yet overwhelmingly the black community voted for her. I didn't, but, um,
Me neither. I
and it's
did.
like, but I was like, so you had a bill, like, I wish I could like clip the little cartoon of the guy. I'm just the bill, and I'm sitting on cap. I wish I could clip that into the video and show how this bill has been languishing for over a century for anti-black, uh, crime legislation. Couldn't get passed for over 100 years, despite lynching and
Yeah,
redlining and you know all sorts of anti-black racism. But I was like, Asians get beat up for 1 year during a pandemic, and they got an instant anti-Asian crime hate bill passed within 1 year.
mm-hmm.
I was like, that is an example of soft power.
Mm.
That is soft power, and that was my clear example I gave to people. I think some of them got it, some of them didn't. Then other people are still pushing that red pill rhetoric about you just need to go get a trade. I'm like, the problem with pushing that whole rhetoric about you should just go get a trade. I was like, number one, not everyone wants to work with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Two, if people are griping about higher education being too feminine and too liberal, then you should join to stop that from happening. Have someone in there who's more conservative or moderate, someone who's more masculine, who can bring masculine viewpoints or conservative viewpoints to higher education. I was like, there are a lot of those, a lot of the Republican elites have gone to the same colleges that the liberal elites have gone to. Like people like Ted Cruz is an Ivy League alumni who
Mm-hmm.
went to, I believe, Harvard or Yale, but you wouldn't think it because everyone thinks Harvard or Yale is just super liberal. The most powerful Republicans in office have gone to the same elite institutions as the liberals have.
Right.
But I was like, these people in the red people space are people who either didn't go to college or they ended up going to college and not getting a useful degree. So they're bitter about it. So they're telling other
Right.
people, oh, you should just go get a trade. And I told the guy that, the trades are lucrative. Don't get me wrong. That's not the problem with getting a trade. Because people thought it's just that, they don't make that much being a plumber or a welder or HVAC technician. No, they make hella money. Some of them make more money than folks in white collar positions. The problem is those jobs don't come with social prestige.
Right.
That's
Mm-hmm.
the problem. And I was like, you guys don't get that. But besides that, it's not an either or. Like I said, I know my position may be unique, but I learned a skilled trade and I went to college to get like a liberal arts and social science degrees. Because it's like, and I went to the army and learned a skilled trade as a cable and telephone technician. So I was able to use that to leverage a job with Comcast Cable when I came home. And then I only stopped at when I went back to college full time, um, so I had both to rely on. Like I could rely on my trade if I needed to, or I could rely on the liberal arts. And then another person pushed back and said, "Well, those white collar jobs are going to get wiped out by AI." I was like, "Actually, no, it's going to be the other way around. The first thing that's going to be wiped out are the trade jobs." I was like, "Truck driving is going to be obsolete within 10 years."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like truck driving, like that used to be a pathway to the middle class back in like the 70s and 80s. Nah,
Yeah.
you've already seen them working on the automated cars, but they've already been working with the automated truck driving. Because think of how that's probably like $1 billion industry. Think how much these people can save if they don't have to hire drivers, they don't have to work, they don't have to hire these trucking fleets. They can do it themselves. That's going to be completely automated.
Yeah, because I know,
That's
like
not the only thing.
my education background. I know my bachelor's is in accounting, and my master's is actually in information systems management. And I know my experience is a lot of times just going really, since I really came to YouTube, I kind of saw, because I follow a lot of the red pill too. And one of the things
Hmm.
that I noticed is when it comes down to, college and everything, especially males, it's like we referred to as lame and just all this other crazy stuff. And I'm sitting back here thinking, like, I have a degree in freaking accounting. There's nothing lame about that. In fact, it's, one of the harder majors to go through in business. Like anybody can't just go and, damn it, take accounting. So I sit back like,
Accounting is hard.
the hell,
I know. My father's a CPA, so I know it's difficult. That man definitely earned his gray hairs after he got his CPA, and
I
then
went,
he wasn't even done after his CPA. Then he went to law school. I'm like,
wow, man, Jesus Christ.
you would think he was Jamaican.
Hats off to hats off to him, because I tried studying for the CPA exam, and I'm like, it's not for me. So I just
Yeah,
went to information systems to be able to, bridge the gap between IT and finances. But throughout that, like a lot of times what I learned and what I try to tell people, sure, I went to college and got the degree, but my real experience just came from the job where I just went and learned something over the last 20 years. And now I could take what I learned and kind of build my own thing. So that's what I
yeah.
got out of the college part. Like you said, being able to get in these positions. But then once I got there, it's like, okay, I can learn something to take from that and then, build my own.
I'm eating lentil and rice, guys. For everyone to ask, Carlton asked, and legitimate 310. They asked what I'm asking. I'm eating lentils and rice. Um, but yeah, like he like that's one thing I can't take away from my father. He's definitely educated. Like even before the CPA, he had got his master's in finance. So
Okay. Another hard
and
one.
I remember after like with law school and stuff, he was telling me this was like many years ago. He was like, he was thinking about going back to law school to get his master's. So you probably know this, but a lot of people don't notice that the 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 um the master's degree in law is actually higher than the JD in law
Mhm. Yeah.
because originally the JD used to be a bachelor's in law, and then they changed it to the Doctor of Juris
Hmm.
um, degree because they wanted it to match like you know um, medical professionals, so medical doctors or MDs. So you know lawyers start uh, so the I guess the bar uh, decided to change the law degree from a Bachelor of Laws to the JD, but overseas it's still called the Bachelor of Law. Like if you go to
Yeah.
like the UK or somewhere,
Yeah.
so there's even a higher specialization than your law degree, which is the Masters of Law. He was like, yeah, I was thinking of doing it. He said, but I'm tired of school. I got it because I was gonna tell him he should do it, but maybe that would have saved him too. But that's a topic
Yeah.
for another day. But
Yeah.
um, he was like, I'm tired of school. But I understand because, like I say, he already got his master's in finance, he got a CPA, and he was in law school. He was an adjunct professor with his own legal, like, he also had his own legal and accounting firm. and he would moonlight sometimes doing as a I guess as a nurse practitioner or a nurse
Yeah,
assistant or something like that when he needed extra money because he had got that when he was in the army because
yeah, yeah. It's nothing lame
he
about.
had his
That's the thing. It's nothing lame about educating yourself, and because it opens up the doors to a lot of other things, and that's what I could never understand with that talk.
yeah, but the black community doesn't see it like that. That's corny to them. That's
Mhm.
being white. You're ambitious. Why? Nigga, you ain't better than us. Like that sort of mentality. So I touched on all of that yesterday. Like I was saying, you don't get support in the black community because you're considered corny or trying to be white if you show ambition or you're actually interested in academic subjects or heaven forbid you use proper grammar.
Oh
You
God.
really get it.
Oof.
Man, don't
Talking
I
white.
went I went I went
Here
I
all
went
the
through
time.
it in Baltimore. I
Uh-huh.
went through it in Baltimore. And now I didn't get that in Philly nor in DC. It was in Baltimore I got the most like pushback on the way I talk because I didn't have a Baltimore accent because I came from Illinois.
Yeah.
So I don't, sound like folks from Baltimore. And so I used to catch flack. But that and then I was saying like and then on top of that, I was saying like within so I was telling people I'm usually like very um very hard sometimes on the black women in my conversations. But I was like, on this one, I'm gonna give them some props because I was like, it was often the black moms that will push their sons to go to college, not the fathers. The father, I was like, many of the fathers were either indifferent to it or hostile. They didn't care, or they were just like, no, you need to just go out and get a job and start working and
Hmm.
contribute. You even need to contribute to the house. Or you need to get out and find your own way, right?
Right.
That's what we normally heard. And I was like, even my father, like, despite his all the education he received, both both starting on college and going on further to graduate and professional schools, like he would push like a blue collar mentality on me. Like I remember I was 19, he was talking about my cousin who was 21, who had a wife and kids and was working at a bank. He was like, why aren't you like your cousin Jason? He's like, he's already married and stuff. I'm like, I'm 19. The
Mhm.
fuck? Like, I don't want to, because he had kids when he had a kid when he was 18. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not trying to repeat that generational curse. Why the hell do, would I want the burden? But and besides that, at 19, you're probably not gonna pick the girl that you want to be with when you like, you know, 10, 15 years later. You're probably gonna have a completely different outlook on the type of women you want. And when you're 19, you'll just mess with anything that can get you a nut. Like
Hmm. Basically,
you're not discriminating. I think what right. I think it's not until you're like at least 30, if not 35, that you become more discriminating and actually know what you like.
right. Right.
So so
Right.
I touched on that, like, it's the black moms that push their sons, like, to go to college. Um, so I touched on those things. Then I also mentioned like when you're in school, that a lot of black people don't know how to like first, picking the colleges you want to go to, and also depending on the college you're at, what's the best way to be successful. So I also made a distinction. I got on HBCUs a little bit, and I was saying I don't hate HBCUs, but I was like, you know, now that um, black students can go to elite institutes, which wasn't the case, uh, 60 years ago when 60, 70 years ago when these HBCUs came into prominence, like they often don't get the best and the brightest because those people often go to the elite institutions. And I was saying the way that HBCUs can still thrive in the 21st century, they need to start admitting more non-black students. Like they do, but it's not enough because most of those people you see are just like the tokens. It'll be like the token white person at Howard, the token Asian or Indian. And I was like, I'm not shitting on them, but I was like, when you're there, you have to get a practical degree because you can't live off the prestige of the university. Because no one outside the Black community really knows about how like Howard or Morehouse and Spelman, and those are the three most well known of the HBCUs. Most people aren't going to know about a school like Texas A&M or Florida A&U or or
Right.
you know
Well, I'm in
Bayou
the heart
State or
of it.
whatever. Like,
Yeah, I'm in the
so I was
heart of
like,
it
if you
down here in Atlanta because I've
yeah
been around Morehouse and Spelman, and it wasn't until I got here that I was like, I mean, it's good the name here in Atlanta, but outside of that, I'm like, you know, because me, like, I went to Temple, so it's like Temple. I mean, at first, Temple's like one of them schools in Philadelphia. It's like, Temple's in the hoods and North Philly and everything like that. But
mhm.
I didn't realize till I moved out of Philly and kind of moved down here about kind of the reputation of Temple and especially the School of Business. And I'm like, you know, and comparing that, and I'm not shitting on them either, but just comparing that to, like the HBCUs, and like, the name
The
itself
funny thing
kind of carries the weight.
is, when I lived in Philly, and because Bill Cosby used to always rock the Temple shirts in the
Yeah.
Cosby Show, I used to think Temple was a HBCU. So I didn't know that Temple wasn't an HBCU because I used to see Temple, and where I live was close to Drexel. So I
Okay.
live close
Yeah.
to Drexel University. So I used to see I don't even know the reputation of Drexel, honestly. I always just thought like Drexel was like um, kind of in the shadow of Temple.
Yeah. In
But
Philly, it was more like Penn, Drexel,
yeah,
than
and
Temple for the most part, because Drexel's name was more like engineering and things like that, whereas Temple was looked
mm,
on like, oh, North Philly, the hood. But like I said, it's a reputation in Philly, but I didn't really see the rep until I moved out here in the South, and they looking at Temple like, wow, okay, just from like the Bill Cosby and then the reputation, and
mhm.
then when I met kind of other people who went to the HBCUs, I kind of see like, oh, okay, I can see Morehouse, Pride, and Spelman, but outside of that, eh, you know,
Yeah, like in Atlanta, the Big Four, they're well known, but but once leave Georgia or the South, they're not that well known,
right, right,
right? And I was
right,
saying, so I was saying in the live, I was saying I wasn't telling people not to go to HBCUs. I was saying if you do go, you need a practical degree because a
hmm,
liberal arts degree from a HBCU is not going to be a useful degree
mm,
because for one, liberal arts degrees aren't that practical in itself. And then also you don't have the name recognition. Whereas, like I said, if you go to one of the elite institutions, which are, basically 12 schools, you got your 8 Ivy Leagues and the 4 Ivy Plus schools, like, Stanford,
yeah,
MIT, University of Chicago, and Duke. Like if you're not coming from one of those 12 schools, then it matters what your degree is in because if you go to one of those schools, it doesn't matter what you majored in. I was like, you could have majored. This is fun. I don't know if anyone laughed when I said this yesterday. I was like, for all I care, if you went to Harvard or MIT and you got a degree in Big Booty Latina, they're still you're still gonna find jobs because all
me,
people are gonna care about is that you are a Harvard
exactly,
alumnus
yeah,
and they want that person on their firm because it looks good upon them that they can say, yeah, we hire Ivy League graduates. So it doesn't matter
right,
which degrees in Big Booty Latina. Like, but if you, but I was saying if you come from a lower tier um, college or HBCU, you need a practical degree. And then I also made a distinction that we talked about before, where I said practical degree doesn't necessarily mean STEM because I was like a lot of STEM degrees actually aren't useful. I was like because a lot of I was like science degrees, a science undergrad degree is not useful because you can't do anything with them other than being a research assistant. And the problem is, as a research assistant, you're still competing with the people who have master's degrees or higher for that same research assistant position, which are typically low paying anyway. So I
hmm,
was like, unless you plan on taking it all the way with a science degree, they're not practical. I was like, the practical degrees are engineering, um, anything in computers, like I said, IT, data science, computer science, or cybersecurity. or finance and accounting. So I kept repeating finance and accounting aren't STEM degrees, but they're very useful, way more useful than a science degree. I was like,
Mhm.
general biology is more useless than a psychology degree. And I noticed because I once majored in general biology and I switched over to psychology.
Man, I took a biology
And
class. I'm like, man, fuck this. I'm like, man, I don't know what made me take it, but I'm like, man, I don't dissecting shit and all this other stuff. I'm like, man, I don't.
no, I like biology, but the reason I was taking it at the time is because I was thinking I was gonna go to pre-med. I wanted to be a
Yeah.
psychiatrist. And
Mhm.
then when I actually shadowed a clinical psychologist, she was, when I was seeing what she was doing, I was like, well, this is what I'm really interested in. I don't want to go the whole path of becoming a physician first and then doing a residency in psychiatry to practice, psychiatric, therapy or whatever. I said I could just go the route of clinical psychology. And so that's when I switched from general biology to psychology. But at my school, you could still take psychology as a biological science
Yeah.
or as a social science, and I chose to take it as a biological science. So I still took a bunch of biology classes. Um, so, but for me, it was more about I was more interested in neuroscience at this point than clinical psychology. Then and then with philosophy, I got more interested in the theoretical stuff, cognitive science. But um, what my but my point about that was that a practical degree doesn't necessarily mean STEM. It just means a degree that you don't have to go further than that very degree to get
Mhm.
to find to start a career. And I pushed back on some other stuff because I was like communication, and I talked about textbook examples of um bullshit degrees. So of course I had to hit on communications, right? Um, yeah, CP. I'm gonna let him get into his stuff really quick. I just wanted to summarize what I talked about really quick. Um, but I talked about communications and criminal justice, and someone was like, "Criminal justice isn't a bullshit degree." I was like, "Yes, it is." I've known people. I was like, "Now, University of Maryland, shout out to them, actually has the best criminal justice program in the country, but it's still a bullshit major." And I was like, it's not because, and people confuse what I'm saying. When I say bullshit major, it's not because I'm saying that the content itself is bullshit. I'm saying it's bullshit because you don't need that major to get into the very fields in which that major is about.
Mhm.
That's what makes it a bullshit degree. Like, typically in communications, you're probably gonna look into things like public relation, PR type work, or some sort of like assistant to like powerful people. And the thing with that is you probably don't need a degree in communications to get into those very fields relating to communications. Same thing with criminal justice. Most criminal justice careers don't even require a degree, and the ones that do, you can literally get a degree in anything. Like if you want to go into law, there, you know, there's a pre-legal path, but there's no set major for being for doing a pre-legal program, just like pre-med. Or if you want to be like a federal, go into federal law enforcement or state law enforcement, or law enforcement even on the municipal level, but like on a higher tier, like they accept any degree. They don't say, well, you need a criminal justice degree. They literally take any degree. So that's why I was like, criminal justice and communications are the textbook examples of bullshit degrees. Then I went further. I was like, any major that ends in studies is a bullshit degree. And I was like, the reason is it means that you're just concentrating on some field that doesn't have any direct correlation to a career path. So something like family studies,
Family
Afro
study.
American
Yeah,
studies,
that's one. Afro American is
right?
what I'm thinking too. Afro.
Yeah, Afro American studies, family studies, like the American studies. I'm like, what's the point? Like American studies? Why don't you become a history major? Like, and I was like, also management. And I made sure to tell people when I say management, I'm talking on the undergrad level, not the master's level. When you're talking about management on the master's level, that's usually correlating directly to to a career. Like usually, because you know, a lot of jobs will send people back to school to get their masters in something directly related to that field, like like IT management. Like
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people go back to work. I mean, go back to school to get like um s- or like software management or something like that. But on the undergraduate level, it's a bullshit major because what are you managing at that level?
Hmm.
When when you see something like health management,
Yeah.
family management, and I'm not even making these up, business
And that's good
management.
because my master's was in management, but the reason why I went for information systems management is because I knew accounting and systems at that point because I didn't get my master's till like 5 years later. So when I went back, I kind of knew what the bridge was that I wanted to do because I wanted to manage more accounting systems, but I wanted to learn from the IT side. So that's why I went back really and said, okay, information systems management. But when nobody didn't tell me at the time, which I kind of put more weight on my bachelor's and my master's, is because even when you go for information systems, it's like, okay, you got the degree, but now what certifications do you have? Like at the time,
Right, the certs.
shit. Like it's like the degree was just a piece of paper at that point. I'm like, wow.
I think yeah, I think the bachelor's level is harder when it comes to information science, information systems, than the master's level. Because the master's
Yeah.
level, like I said, usually if you're talking about information systems management, um, cybersecurity management, um, any soft, what is it, software, all that sort of stuff. Usually, that is preparing someone to run an office with people that do that sort of work. So that's like a specific practical degree. So yeah, I touched on that. Um, and I was telling people, regardless of what degree they get, they need to look for internships. And I was like, that's something they don't teach a lot of these black students. I was like, unless they go off to their career center where they actually learn these skills, because since so many black kids are first generation college students, they often don't get taught this by their parents about getting a practical degree, going to an elite university if they can get into it, um, making sure if you go to these elite universities, and I touched on that. It's like when you go to an elite university, um, networking is almost as important as your education,
Oh yeah, absolutely,
because
absolutely.
that's where a lot of the groundwork is in these elite universities. Whereas, like I said, if you go to a lower tier college, you need to spend your priority is your education, because you're not around a bunch of well-heeled people like you are at some of these elite universities, where your 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 peers are people who are legacy students stretching like multiple generations back. Like some of them have their last names are the name of the halls there at the schools,
Hmm.
right? So I was like, yeah, you definitely need to spend more time networking. And I was like, Steven Pinker had joked about in his psychology classes at Harvard, most of the time the kids aren't even there for the lecture courses, because they're spending time, going to different student groups and associations. And I was like, it reminds me of that old movie, Real Genius. If I don't know if you ever saw that long time ago with Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I think I did long
Um,
time. Yeah.
that's one of my favorite movies, because I'm nerdy like that. So it was funny because like all this none of the students were in this course. They all had like the micro cassette recorders recording the lecture. But what made it funny was the professor wasn't even there either. He had set up a recorder for the lecture, so they're recording that. I was like, that's at the most elite universities. It's not. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it gets that bad sometimes where these R1 schools, the professors' uh, priority is not teaching but research. Like at an R1 school, like my alma mater, it's basically like uh, publish or perish sort of thing.
Hmm.
So that's usually their focus is. I mean, most of them care about their students, but like I said, they're concentrating on making sure they're pushing out research, because that's what drives. That's what gives them, raises their salary and makes sure that they get their full professor tenure. because once you get that tenure, you're in there for life.
Yeah,
Because I was saying I would have been I would have went to Howard when I left high school, and I was like, I wish I listened to my father because he wanted me to skip a year of high school and go a year early to college. And if so, I could have went to Harvard for free because if when your uh, parent works there, you get to go tuition free.
absolutely.
And unfortunately, I didn't do that. And so my senior year, which was mostly a bunch of useless classes I was taking anyway, so he was kind of right. I could have just skipped senior year and went off to college my junior year. But um, he lost. He was only an adjunct professor, so he lost his job at Howard at the time. So that path wasn't clear for me anymore because I didn't take applying for school seriously because I always assumed I was just going to go to Howard at that
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
And so so I was telling people make sure you do internships, and I was like, don't just look at paid internships. I was like, often kids from lower income communities, especially Black kids, I was like, often when they do think about internships, they only look at paid internships. But I was like, usually the most elite firms are looking for free labor out of college students. So the high name places want are going to give unpaid internships, but in do so they give you like a glowing recommendation, or they'll hire you themselves once you graduate. And I was like, it's a shame that even today a lot of college kids don't know that, because overseas it's a requirement to do your internship. Like that's usually the last part of your degree, is that you actually have to do an internship to finish your degree. Whereas here it's completely voluntary, but a lot of kids don't know that you actually still need an internship if you're looking for a job, because that's why they feel dismayed when they get out of college and the entry level job is asking for 2 years of experience. It's
Yeah.
like, how do I have 2 years experience on an entry level job? I was like, that's the internship.
And I found that out the hard way too, especially as an accounting major, because really to get into those at the time it was the big five firms back then. Yeah, is that they were stressing internships. So every networking event that I went to, it was all about intern, intern, intern. But the thing that reason why I didn't, because my GPA wasn't really high enough for that. And they was looking for the top of the top.
Mine was average.
Yeah,
I was biting off too much to chew because I was partying, I was still in the military, and I was doing a double then a triple major. So
yeah,
because I was trying to do too much, my GPA definitely sank. But I never did an internship because I always assumed I was just going to go straight on to graduate school, so I wasn't even going to worry about an internship. But I was like, either either you should be doing an internship as an undergrad, like looking into that like your junior year, if not sophomore year, or if you're not going to do that, you should be looking into a pathway either into graduate or professional school, or you can consider the military. I was like, a lot of people don't realize that, you know, what they see as an obligation, coming out of like maybe ROTC or a military academy where you got to do like 5 years of service as a commissioned officer. I was like, that's not an obligation. That's a bonus. I was like, you're right there, and it's like you from there have a choice to make a career out of the military after that 5 years, or you can go off with a glowing resume saying I've just served 5 years as a commissioned officer in the U.S. military. So I was like, people can consider it. I was like, so I went through all of those sort of things. So I think it was a pretty good chat. But some CP was saying, let alone financial literacy is not taught, and so that's sort of a segue into what we're going to talk about. And you can kind of, give your experience on that and what you think people should know, especially as we're about to go into like tax season.
yeah. Well, basically with me, I'm more on the the county and the bookkeeping side. So I deal mostly with small businesses, and I kind of really what I really talk about is kind of like it kind of shifts to the black community a lot of times because I feel as though when I talk about accounting and bookkeeping, like you was mentioning earlier about the other communities, It's like I feel as
Mhm.
though they know about, especially when they start business. It's like they know about the importance of, let's say, bookkeeping. They understand that it is essential for starting a business. But when it comes down to our community, I mean, like I told you before, and I tell my cousin this all the time, the biggest struggle that I've had, which kind of caused me to shift my focus a little bit more, is that whenever I go to any type of like networking and I mention, hey, my business, this is what I do, these are the type of services that I offer. Seems like everybody outside of our community kind of know, yeah, bookkeeping, that's essential. I start a business, I need you right away. But to come down to us is always the last thing that they think about. And then when they do think about accounting and bookkeeping and just in their business, it's always after they get that letter from the IRS. And by
Oh boy.
then, and by then it's like they'll come to me like, "Oh, well, I haven't done my taxes in like 6 years. Do you think you can fix it now?" And I'm like, I can't sit back and do 5 years of bookkeeping in like a week or a day. It just doesn't work that way. So I found that, and Marcus told my cousin, he was like, I tell you, it's like you gonna go on me, but it's like I have to be truthful about the main reason why I kind of shift my focus. I mean, I developed a new interest really in the IT and the technology part, like CRM system management. But the biggest the biggest frustration that bookkeeping, and I'm just going to go right out and say it, it's just dealing with our community mostly. It's like, coming in and being like, before you think about taxes, you need to have your business finances in order, not just from the standpoint of just bookkeeping and everything like that, but where do you see your business 4 or 5 years from now? And like with the income from your business, it's like, are you taking care of yourself personally? Are you investing this? Are you setting yourself up for retirement? X, Y, Z. And like heart of what I want to talk to you about, and it's not like I'm trying to bash our community, but it's just like the
No,
biggest
go ahead.
biggest frustration that I come across is just when I go to these networking events and I talk about, okay, your business. They say to me, hey, I have a business. I have this business. Okay. And I'm coming like, okay, I can help you with certain things, but can I see your P&L, your profit and loss statement, or your balance sheet? And it's like, well, what's that? What's that? You mean to see my bank statement? When I talk about finances, it's like, oh, I have my bank statement. Like, that's not finances. I mean, when it comes down to finances, I'm talking about financial statements, I'm talking about sales, I'm talking about revenue, expenses. And it's like coming and talking to our people about these things. It's like I used to do taxes a long, long time ago. And when I came to dealing with black small business owners, and I know in a few lives ago you talked about the baby boomer generation. Well, I'm
Mhm.
gonna go back and piggyback on certain things that they do with their businesses. It's like I used to do tax returns for like the baby boomer generation, and they would come to me with sheets of paper with stuff that they say, I'm not going to report this to the IRS. I'm not going to report that. And it seemed like they was just resistant a lot of times with saying, hey, I have a business, but I'm not going to sit here and report my taxes to the IRS because I don't want them in my business. And my answer to
I
that
mean,
is my answer to that has always been, because that's what I've been trained. I've been an accountant for so many years. It's like it's not that you are reporting for the IRS to be in your business, but have you ever
they
heard of
already know.
deductions? Yeah, they do. But it's like, have you heard of deductions? Like I seen somebody who had a business with millions of dollars of assets just laying around, and I'm like, well, how come on your tax return I don't see the fact that you purchased all these assets? Well, IRS don't need to know that. I'm like, don't you know that depreciation up to a certain amount is one of the biggest tax deductions you can have when you purchase expensive equipment? And I
They
tried to
they try
shift to that financial education part, but it always came down to, I don't want to hear that. I don't want them in my business.
they,
Forget it.
they try so hard to be slick, they don't realize they're doing themselves a disservice. It's like it's sort of like in the same vein of how I was talking about higher education in the black community, where people were just like, I don't, you know, how black men were dismissive of higher education in the community because they felt like, I just want to start I just want to start making money, forget college. And I'm like, over the long run, you're going to make more if you pursue that higher education, whether
Right.
it's through trade school or college, as opposed to just going right into the working world. This isn't the 50s and 60s
Right.
where, you can, where, you know, you work in some little small town or city where there's some major industry that's hiring right out of high school, where you can go right to, like Detroit back in its heyday, where, it became a family rivalry, whether you worked at like Dodge or Chevrolet or whatever.
Hmm.
And yeah, you were making good money. It's not like that anymore. It's like you have like what's the saying? You're cutting your what is it? You cutting your leg to despite your foot or something. I
Yeah.
forgot how that saying goes. But
Cutting
yeah,
your
that's what
leg
they're
to
doing.
spite
Like
your foot.
when it comes to education or finances, like they're sitting there saying, "Well, I'm gonna hide this from the IRS." First of all, the government already knows, for the most part. This is why people get audited.
Right.
Then second of all, they don't realize that, like you said, a lot of those things can be used as tax deductions.
Hmm.
So it's like they try so hard to be slick that they're actually hurting themselves. And yeah,
Yeah.
it comes from a lack of financial literacy in the black community.
And I see in the comment too, certain type of black men. I'm gonna be honest. Most of my bookkeeping clients that I've done business with was more black. We just keep it right to the black community. It's just been more black
Mhm.
women because it seemed like when I come to black men, it's like black men was like, I'm not doing. It's like they wasn't buying pretty much what I was telling them. And it was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it this way. And
Yeah, they
I
always
look
got this
back
sort of
next
like,
year, I'm like, you know,
they always got this like, I'm trying to avoid the government sort of thing. And it's like, if you want to avoid the government, be above, do everything
right.
above the level. Like that keeps the government away if you're doing everything on the level. Like when you trying to be sneaky and say, I'm gonna hide these assets and do this and do that. Look, this isn't the mafia. Like you sitting there trying to hide these assets, like you're doing yourself a disservice. Like unless you are making your money in the black markets of whatever, then no, you should be reporting these things. And even still, even if you are in the black market, that's literally how they got Capone. Like
Yeah.
they couldn't get him. They couldn't get him on anything else. How did they
Right.
get him on tax evasion?
Tax
That's how
evasion.
they got Capone. They
Hmm.
couldn't. They couldn't bring him down on anything he was doing in his criminal empire, except for the fact that he was evading taxes.
Hmm. And that's what I see a lot of us doing. And just when I just started kind of with the tax side, I'm like, man, a lot of these older blacks, it's like they do some illegal shit. It's like I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow. And then it caused me to want, because like we said when we talked about financial literacy, it's like I feel as though that I have a lot of financial literacy to give when it comes down to the standpoint of business, but it seems like a lot of times my audience, you know, and me and my cousin, we talk about this all the time. It's like, much to my surprise, my audience that really listens to me is way outside. Well, I shouldn't say my surprise, but it's like it's outside of our community. That's when I market this stuff and when I just put things on LinkedIn and everything. It seems like everybody outside the community is more receptive than inside our community. But then when it comes to inside our community, I'm noticing that a lot of black women is a lot more receptive to it than black men. And I didn't expect it to really be like that when I started this. But just by from what I listen to, my experience, when I sit back here and listen to what brothers, black men say on YouTube, I'm like, that's why we where we are right now. It's because of the word.
I'm gonna say this, and people can come at me if they want to. The reason is like that, whether you're talking about financial literacy or higher education or other related things, the black community has a long strain of anti-intellectualism. So we
Hmm.
don't want to listen to experts.
Hmm.
We don't want to pursue post-secondary education, and it's all due to some an anti-intellectual streak within our community. And
Hmm.
I did touch on that yesterday too when I said, because people was like, well, where did all of this start? And I was like, well, how far do you want to go back? And I was like, so I actually delved into it. I was like, look, when most black people were brought here to America,
Hmm.
like most of them lived in the American South, and they intermixed with the folks, the Europeans who migrated to the American South, and that was mostly a bunch of people from the UK, either from Northern England or from parts of Scotland and Ireland, who were the rebel rousers, and they established what was called cracker culture, and a lot of the degeneracy in the black community came from those folks. I was like, so much so, if you were reading newspapers out of the 1700s or 1800s, they used to talk about these people the way we talk about black people today, saying that
Yeah.
they're degenerate, they just like to you know cause commit crime and have babies and just drink and smoke, and like if if you didn't know whom they were talking about, you would have swore they were talking about black people, and then you look at it and they're talking about like the Irish Scot type people, or the Highland folk out of parts of England and stuff like that. And that Thomas Sowell talked about that when he called it black redneck white liberal, and he talked about how cracker culture was adopted by black people in the American South, and it became the part of the black community. And I was like, the reason why other ethnic communities do so much better when a lot of these immigrant communities come here and they do so much better is because their they have cultural values based in discipline and higher education, and we don't.
Right.
So I touched on that. That's why they're more receptive to
Right.
financial literacy and listen to expertise. Whereas I'm pretty sure like your non-black clients, if you're telling them this is how you need to do these things, they're probably going to be more receptive to you. Whereas you're going to get probably more pushback from some 50-year-old black man like, man, I ain't trying to do all that shit. Like
Well, that's what I
that's
got.
that's the that's right.
That's what I got. Right. It's either my non-black clients or the women, black women, like I say, is way more receptive. But when it comes down to black men, it's like I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And the other thing that pisses me the hell is like your prices. Like somebody came to me a few weeks ago, wanted wanted to get their taxes done, and they haven't filed their taxes in like 7 6 7 years. And it's like when I'm talking to them about, okay, before we even get the taxes, I need to see where your finances are. I just need to see where your books are, how you handle things. And it's like, yeah, I can do that, but my budget is like I can't pay no more than $1,000. $1,000 to clean up 6 years worth of messy ass books. Like really? And
Hey,
it's
Agatha.
like that mentality is like, then when you go and engage in that, it's just the bullshit. It seems like a lot of us black men, while we go through a lot of shit, it's like a lot of us seem to be bullshitting when it comes down to certain things like that.
And
I'm
and
like,
how are they gonna tell you what your fee is? Like they're gonna tell you what they're willing to pay you, whereas they're coming to you. So if they're coming to you, they should be, they should pay what your services cost.
mhm.
Otherwise, they can keep it moving. Because it's like they gonna tell you what they're willing to pay. Like, no, you're gonna pay what my services cost.
Yeah, and cleaning up 6 years worth of books or even establishing. I mean, listen, you talking over 20. You lucky if you get somebody to do it for 20 grand. Lucky service like
The
that.
real,
Oh
the
yeah.
real CP show made a good point. He said they won't tell it to others. Exactly. If they go to
Hell
someone
no.
named Stan, they go to someone with the last name ending in Stein or Berg, they're not gonna be talking that recklessly. We
No.
don't. That's another problem in the black community. We don't. Black men don't often respect each other. Like
Hmm.
I'm like whenever I dealt with a friend at their
Hmm.
job or anything else, I did not try to shortchange them. Like, come on, brother, you gonna give me a discount? I've never done that. Like, I've never been like, yo, you gonna hook me up? But black people always got this, especially black men. I'm gonna say like, especially black men will
Hmm.
go to each other expecting a hookup just because by virtue we're both black. Like, man, if you do actually respect me, you're gonna pay me what my worth instead of trying to shortchange me looking for a discount or a hookup because I wouldn't do that to you. Like,
Yeah. 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 And I experienced, I'm like, it wasn't really till I got into business when I realized that. I'm like, we don't respect each other. Then there's always the hookup, especially because most of my firm really kicked off when I moved down here, to Atlanta. And I know what I noticed down here when I dealt with black men, and it was just always the conversation would be good until it came down to the money and what the charge is, and it was just like, that's a little bit too much. I mean, I even did somebody's taxes before and didn't get back what they thought that they should, trying to do it the right way. And it's like basically, hey, I'm gonna take the tax return that you did that I spent time with and go to somebody else to try to get them more. But it's like doing little scammy shit like that, which really caused me to see like what the real issues is, especially when it come down to the financial literacy part. It's like,
right, and it's like it's not a problem doing favors for each other, but the favor should be offered, not asked for, right? It's like you know I might be, I'll probably be willing to help someone out, but not with them saying, yo, can you help me out? Can you hook me up? Then I feel like, nah, you try and get over. But if I'm just like, where I can, I'll look out for someone. Like I do that when I'm doing my coaching. Like often I know people don't have the money to pay the fees that I want for like if I'm doing like charge like 100 per session, or if my martial arts coaching I'll do 100 per session. But if I know this person doesn't really have it like that, I'll still do it for like a low price, but not if they're not if they're like demanding it, like
mhm.
you know and then usually those favors are understood that they're going to be reciprocal at some point, not like it has to happen a direct exchange for exchange like tit for tat,
Right,
but
right.
is understood amongst gentlemen that once someone does a favor for you, you do a favor for them,
Hmm.
as opposed to just coming out, come to someone like, yo, can you hook me up? So
Hmm.
we lack some of those social graces.
Yeah, yeah. And it was just, I mean, my cousin would tell you, me and him talk about it all the time. It's like just the frustration part of it. Because at one point, I used to want to gear my services just to the black community. I
I
learned
know,
quick.
I know, I
I
know. Your
learned
cousin
quick.
talked about that one.
Listen, that ended quickly before it even started. Because dealing with the black community, it was just pushback from everything I tried to say. And it's like, gosh. And then when I moved down here, because I started shopping Philly, but Philly frustrated fuck out of me. So I said I moved down here and kind of started it over down here. I mean, I
Mhm.
had success, but mostly down here, like some of my larger paying clients were not black businesses. Were not, you know?
So, Real P says, what does you and your host think about illegal immigrants that use the tax loopholes? Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what he means by that because, from my understanding, illegal aliens don't
Yeah.
pay and don't pay income taxes. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I mean. If maybe you want to touch on that, because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know of any loopholes that they use. I mean, I know that some of them don't. get paid under the table a lot of times and don't claim taxes. But I don't know if
Yeah, so they're not even paying income taxes half the time.
yeah.
Now, I will say in some, so maybe he's referring to like, so somewhere like a sanctuary state, like Maryland. Maryland's a sanctuary state. So, because I was told when I was first dating a Filipina overseas before my wife,
Hmm.
we were talking about bringing her here um, under a visitor's visa, and this is how a lot of illegal immigrants come from overseas. Is basically they come here on a visitor's visa and then they overstay their visa. And I was talking to a social worker at the time about this, and she was like, "Well, we don't encourage illegal immigration." She's like, "But once they're here, she was like, we will, get them. We'll try to, we'll get them like a social security card or whatever, so we can get them working, so they can pay, so they can start paying state taxes." I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe that's what he's touching on.
Hmm. Yeah, but
He
it's
says the ETIN number. That's the tax
that's
identification
a
number. I
tax
don't know.
identification number. Yeah,
Yeah.
employer like E10. Yeah,
Because I had that from when I set up my LLC, which was a big waste of time. Like everyone wanted to set up an LLC during the pandemic. I mean, I had a legitimate reason. Was I was a independent contractor when I was working for these for these lead generation companies, because it was cheaper for them to hire us as independent contractors. But what was kind of scammy about it was they were just making sure they took care of their taxes. They didn't care about what we did. And so I was like, well, I should probably set up an LLC so I could, take care of my taxes easier than trying to just because either way, I'm still going to be considered what do you call it, sole proprietor or whatever.
proprietor, single member, sole proprietor slash single
See,
member LLC,
right.
single member
So I was like,
LLC.
yeah, I might as well. Yeah. So I was like, I should just sign up for a single member LLC, and
Hmm.
that's what I did during the pandemic. Um, but yeah, ironically, after I did that, I was no longer even working in that space that much longer. So
Yeah,
I ended up not really even using it.
but it's just there's so many things that I see. It's just like I love talking about what I love talking about, but when it comes down to the business aspects, the nuts and bolts of it, it's like most conversations that I get with a lot of our people, it's like it's like they kind of overlook the the cause and go right to the effect. And what I mean by that, especially when I was started my accounting firm, was okay, I need my taxes done. It's like I need my taxes done. But it's like, the source of your taxes, right? You know that whatever you report on in your business, that's pretty much your tax return, right? And it's like
Mhm.
that piece right there, the cause is what's always kind of overlooked. And just by teaching, me being an adjunct instructor and teaching a bookkeeping course, you know who the majority of my students are.
I can imagine.
And
And
it's
I
like,
don't I don't have a problem dealing with black students because I like I don't know, because I'm kind of didactic. I don't mind like teaching people, especially like black kids. Like I look at them, I see them as like these could be like my little niece and nephews, right?
yeah,
So I don't have a problem with that if they're not knuckleheads.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, often and I can't really fault them for not knowing a lot of stuff because again, it comes back on our community. Their family doesn't get them squared away. Our
yeah,
community doesn't teach these things. I mean,
yeah,
this is. I mean, I I, completely disagree with Umar, but I think the whole um idea behind his FDMG Academy and all that sort of stuff is that, like other ethnic communities, it would probably be beneficial if the black community had its own like specialty schools. Like Jewish people have Hebrew
yeah.
school,
Mhm.
Chinese people have like the Chinese language schools and to teach like Chinese language and culture. And some other ethnic communities have their little specialty schools. And so that was sort of, I think, the impetus behind his little, well, his bullshit non-existent FDMG Academy.
I've been up there
But yeah,
by I've
we
been up there by
we
the way a few years ago.
Yeah. Now, unlike Tariq Nasheed, he actually opened his museum. Now, people
Yeah.
criticized it because it wasn't as big as the one he originally wanted, but he did actually end up opening a legit museum in California that people can go to, and they've had actual events there, as opposed to the invisible FDMG. The man always talked about, I'm not clapping cheeks, my brothers. I'm not clapping cheeks, my brothers. I'm
Yeah.
not clapping cheeks, my brothers. I'm busy painting the FDMG Academy. I'm busy painting the FDMG Academy. I'm busy painting the FDMG Academy.
I mean,
Because he has to repeat everything 3 times
three
just to
times.
let you know that.
I mean, I've been
Right.
up there. I went up there about like 4 years ago. It was bad then, but it's like I went up there. I was like, man, ain't no way.
Didn't they like foreclose on it or something last year or something like that?
Yeah, they
Because he
foreclosed on
actually
it, but I
had
heard
some sort
he.
of space.
Yeah, I heard he paid. Whatever they was asked. The back taxes were, but yeah. But I went up there and
He needed your services.
mm,
He needed your services. He probably spending all that money busting out snow bunnies, even though he claims he doesn't. He had a recent he had a recent he had a recent he's so full of it because dude, I'm pretty sure he claps more non-black women than we we've ever had. Because you ain't telling me you traveling to Australia and Norway and you finding sisters.
no.
Why, what women are you finding in the whitest of white parts of Europe, in places
Mhm.
like Switzerland and
Yeah,
Norway, or going to Australia? Unless
and
he's clapping Aboriginal cheeks, like,
I know
no.
as men I could pick up because like before I got married, my wife she can hear it. I tell her all the time. Before I got married, when I first started teaching, it's like men. I was the only male teacher in front of a classroom full of females. And I used to get females all the time who used to be like, I don't be going in there like trying to pull any of them. I just come and show the intelligence and everything like that. And I used to get females used to come over after class, after they finish, like, oh, Mr. Green, I don't mean to say anything, but it's like, you mind coming over for dinner? I just want you to come over for dinner and, I'll be like, oh,
Women,
and
yo, women,
uh, so it's like
the-
I see as man, I can really see what he's doing because I've been in that position before when I first started teaching, and even now, but I just stay away from it. But it's like the power of the tongue when teaching can go a long way.
oh, I know, brother. Like people in the red pill space always talking about women are unapproachable and this and that. When women like you, they can be bold as I don't know what.
Oh, I had a student once about 10 years ago. She was like, listen, I'm not going to do anything now, but after here, when I graduate, and you know, basically I'm come you're mine. Like right after I graduate, you're mine. And she basically told me that. Literally. Literally. I'm like,
Damn.
yeah. I have some stories when I first because how old was I when I first started teaching? I was 31 when I first started teaching. And I didn't really start teaching at a community college or a university. I started teaching at like a tech school where
Mm.
women was going to be like medical assistants and it wasn't really college. And that's where I got the most temptation. And I remember my dad always reminded me when I told him about it, he would be like, well, just remember, you worked hard to get to this point. You don't want to ruin it by doing that. And I'll be like, well, it's hard. Just you ever walk into a room. I had one time the largest class I ever had was like 47 students. And out of the 47 students, like two or three of them were dudes. It is that's why when I see Umar, it's like, when he be like sister this and sister that, be like, man, I've been in
He's
that.
so full of it. And like I said, like every time he has an interest in women, he extends the blackness to different, like, remember he extended that to the Dominicans. He was like, Dominicans are Africans, my brother.
Yeah,
Dominicans are African, my brother.
yeah,
Dominicans are Africans, my brother. Then he was saying this on this video that your cousin shared with me with the Filipina chick. He was like, oh yeah, he said, yeah, you he said you Filipinas are are African too. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, so now the Filipinos African. So apparently, it's so according to him, I should be okay in his rule book that I'm married to a Filipina because apparently Filipinos are African too now,
right.
according to him. Because I mean, it is true that you have the Negritos of the Philippines who are black people, and she even asked him, "Do you consider Melanesians black?" He's like, "Yeah, some of them." He said they're definitely black people, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but it was like now, so now you're gonna say all Southeast Asians are black because you want to clap them, or you're already clapping them. So, because she appeared on his video and she was scared to show her face. He was like, "Show me your face." She's like, "I'm not black, Dr. Umar." He's like, "What are you?" She's like, "I'm Filipino." She was like, "Go ahead." He said, "It's okay. You can be on here." And he's like, "Yeah, the Filipinos are our sisters too, or whatever." I'm like, "Word, all right, Umar." I
Wow.
was like, it's gonna get to. And I joked about that. I was like, it's gonna get to a point where he's just gonna say, all of us are African, my brothers. We all come from Africa. All of these British women are our sisters too. Like it's gonna get to a point where he just says everyone's African. I mean, which technically they are, I guess, but it's like, come on, man.
Wow. And I see
But
what's the real CP show what he said, what type of class? I'm gonna share what type of class I used to kind of teach. Well, the class that I used to teach that used to get really get a lot of women attracted to me. Like when I taught at the college, they put in a it was like a first year program for all the new students that started. It's like I was teaching the program. It was sort of like a psychology type program where I was a facilitator for a course where it was designed to build students' confidence to be able to develop some type of goal setting in order to, be successful in college. So the class was designed to really go up and say, hey, to boost your confidence, to tell you that you can do this and you can do that. And so a lot of the students in the medical program were women. So when I would come and encourage them to, you got this, you're this, you're that, you're smart, you're intelligent, kind of capping them up like what Umar doing. Those were the type of classes that I was doing, and then I noticed that like they would literally make passes at me while I'm teaching. I mean, I had a student make a pass at me right when I was teaching and writing on the board. You know, so those type of psychology classes where you're going up and you're boosting confidence and things like that were the type of classes I was teaching. So that's why when I see Umar doing it, it's like I've been there in the very beginning, and I know what type of attraction you get. It's like a lot of times it don't
yeah,
take much talking. You just say the right thing. You just come and you say the right thing, and they're gonna come after you. And it came to a point where I had to scale back a little bit because it started to becoming a distraction. So when I look at Umar with his ways, sister this and all, I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what he's doing because I've been there. It's just that now I teach bookkeeping classes and accounting, so it's not that much. But when I was that first module semester, where I had to where my job was to build up students' confidence, those were the type of students that used to come and be like, oh, you make me feel so good about myself. And yeah, next
Wo-
thing I know,
women
it's like I'm getting invitations for dinner or to go out
women
and
are
date.
attracted to men who have authority, who have some sort of authority. So teachers is something they naturally gravitate to. Oh, shout out to Jonah. Thank you for the gifs. Um, one of my moderators, Agla, she said woman magnet. Yeah, like men of authority naturally attract women. Like women, when they, especially in their femininity, are attracted to men who have some sort of authority or power or leverage, even if it's just perceived authority or perceived leverage. They're
Yeah.
attracted to that. Even even as an undergrad, I was never a teacher, but we used to have this program within the Black Student Union. Marcus could tell you about this, where we had this tutor program where we would tutor like freshmen incoming freshmen. It was called the Big Little program, and it
Hmm.
became a de facto
Yep.
dating service, really,
Hmm. Hmm.
because we would end up tutoring these girls, and then a lot of them would be like, "Well, actually, I don't need tutoring anymore. I'm good." And they'd be like, "But we can still hang out." And a lot of these guys end up just dating them. And the older, the upperclassmen girls would get mad. They was like, "You guys are just preying on these freshmen." I was like, "The freshmen, no, the freshmen are coming after us. What are you talking about?" So like
Every
that, or
time,
like,
yeah. Every time I
or
used to talk to a brother and tell them, all the brothers used to be like, "Oh man, I wish that I was in your position." And I'd come and tell them like, "No, the hell you don't. No, you don't. You know, no, you don't want to be in this position because the temptation. I've seen somebody fired because of that. You know, and teaching career ruined. So it's like you got to kind of think about all of these things. I could have, but I said, you know, what's more important to me, long term success or short term do this and then I can't teach anywhere anymore. And I just chose the latter, and I learned how to
now
block
that's
it out.
now that's different if like they're no longer your student. I think that's a like a I don't know. I guess that's a case by case basis. Like I know on a lot of campuses, um, they usually like, at least I know, like on my alma mater, they didn't have any issue. They didn't have any rules against professors dating their students. It was shunned socially, but it was no rule against it. So it was basically like a professor, that was on them if they decided to date
Mm,
a student. But I don't necessarily have a problem with it as long as the person is no longer your student. Because if they're still your student, then there's the that power, that perceive, power differential where that person might be doing
yep.
something to ensure that they get a good grade. So that would be the perception, whether that's true or not. And anyone who values you know their career wouldn't do that. Now, again, if you're a full professor with tenure, you might not care because, like I said, you're pretty much you're once they get that tenure, it's like being a federal employee. Like
Yeah,
you're pretty much there till you decide to retire.
yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I wouldn't have a problem with it as a teacher once that person is no longer my student.
I've been there. I've been there before too. Like this before my wife, but I did that. I've dated students after, well, former students after they graduated. I did. I never did anything while they was in my class, but
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I don't think there's any sort of moral compromise there, or professional compromise, because
but
people are just going to be attracted. Like,
yeah.
you know,
But
one
like I
a
said,
friend of mine,
mm,
who another brother who was in the Philippines who I met. He's actually, from the PG County area. That's how we clicked because I was at this comic convention, and he was like, the only other black person there. He had his own comic book that he published there in the Philippines, and he had his own toy company. And we were talking, and then he told me that before he started his own business out there, he used to be a professor in the Philippines, teaching psychology. That was another reason we clicked. We both had that background. And he was telling me, like, sometimes the girls would, flirt with him. And he was like, one girl, who was a student, he said, like, she really liked him because he made her feel good about herself as a student. And she said she really looked up to him, and that because of his encouragement, she had got a tattoo, with something he had told her that was encouraging.
mm.
But she told him it was she had it tattooed on her butt. And after, she had left, after after she was no longer in his class, she showed him the tattoo. I'm like, wow, okay. So I
I,
was like, damn, I think I missed the mark not being a professor.
and look, I know because trust me, I've been there. I just didn't let it mess up my career. Wow, they was my students, but I feel it.
Yeah, in the
That's why.
Philippines, it's probably a little bit more acceptable because
Yeah, but some of them, wow. That's why, like when I see Umar, I'm like, I know exactly what you're doing. I know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Can't fool me, but I know what you're doing.
Like I said, So like I said, so if Umar is cool with it, no one can ever say I'm dating outside my race now. I can say no, Filipinas are black because Umar said they are. Now I'm gonna point right back. Now I'm gonna go right. I'm gonna point right back to that video where he said it.
Umar is a character, Me and my
Yeah,
wife,
man.
we watch. I put like a lot of the YouTubers. You might know, a lot of the YouTubers that I follow. I know my wife be watching them too, and we just sometimes will sit around and just kind of be like, wow, who's listening to that shit? Some of them are, but it's like, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Like back during the pandemic, I used to listen to a lot of the manosphere talk, but after a while, I'm like, man, you listen to this shit.
They regurgitate a lot of stuff, and then like I said, a lot of them are just bitter. Like like I like I share a lot of the same talking points they have, but I go against the grain where I don't agree with stuff. Like I said, when it comes to like their take on education, I go against that. Um, what or I hated how they all had gravitated towards Pearl, just Pearly things. Well, she just calls herself Pearl now, but she was basically stealing all the talking points from Kevin Samuels and Fresh and Fit,
Hmm.
and she was a complete grifter. Now she's like now that she's back on YouTube, now she's like changed her style up. She's more like this black pill type podcaster now. So it's like she's just a grifter to me.
You know what this remind me of with a lot of these YouTubers? It remind me of the old WWF back in the day, where you see one wrestler I can think of. Who was it? The fabulous Was it the fabulous Ragu, whatever the hell, the two brothers Jock and Ramon Ragu,
Razor
whatever,
Ramon.
where they had they one skit, then he came back as the Mountie, or or the Godfather, that wrestler, the Godfather. Before that, he was Papa Shangu, and like how they just changed their whole persona. That's how I look at a lot of these YouTubers. It's like one minute they talk about this, and then the next minute they shift and talk about something else. And I'm like, you just go where the wind go. And I kind of that's how I felt about kind of that real pill talk, because before I can think of a lot of YouTubers that did this. It's like I was attracted to them at first because they used to say stuff, you know, that I thought was true. Like, black men, we got to do this, we got to do that. But then I noticed that a lot of the manosphere just shifted now to being the ultimate coons. I don't know if
Hey,
you
wow.
noticed that. I'm like, they just became the ultimate coons. Like, or I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I apologize. A C word or whatever,
No, you
whatever
good.
the
No, you good.
politics is right now. But I'm like, man, it's like WWF.
Yeah, and then the Black Manosphere basically destroyed itself because they were too busy going at each other.
Hmm.
They just started sniping at each other. Like after Kevin Samuels, like it just completely broke down. And then they were all mad at him because he had reached a level of success that they never had. That's because he's smarter than you guys. That's why. I mean, I don't know how the better way to put it. He was smarter than them.
Yeah.
He was more talented.
Yeah.
So they were mad because he was like, well, he stole our talking points, and I was like, yeah, he borrows points, but you guys were using his shit too. Like, how many people were like clipping his videos and doing,
Hmm.
So
That's
whatever.
all I used to
But
see. That's all I used to see. Because you
yeah, it
probably
wasn't.
follow a lot of the YouTubers that I follow, and it's like
Yeah,
the reason why I gravitated, because they used to say certain things that I used to be about black men. That it just the whole game just shifted when they found that the real money is not trying to uplift black men. The real money, that I saw was jumping
dog
on
and
dogging black women, and then
women.
shifting to become the ultimate C word.
You
I
talking about
mean, Huh?
I can imagine some of the people you're talking about, but it, uh, what did real? So he was asking a few questions. He asked what made you get into accounting.
What made me get into accounting? I mean, I used to be a business administration major, and I took a few business administration classes, but I chose accounting because I just wanted to specialize in something. 'Cause business was like just broad, but I just wanted to be a specialist in some particular area of business. So I chose accounting because I actually took an accounting class in high school and I liked it. So when I got to college, I said, "Hey, I saw accounting as part of business. I took it in high school and I liked it, so I became an accounting major. And that's how I backed into it for the most
And
part."
my big sister is also an accountant too. Like
Mhm.
she works for the IRS. So both she and my father both work for the IRS.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I don't have the hatred for the IRS that everyone else does. However, I I do think the IRS goes after after the small people because they don't have the legal acumen to go after the really powerful wealthy people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on top of that, like some of those folks, like the really affluent people or celebrities, they have their in the Social Security Administration, they have their own section for people who are like celebrities or super wealthy. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're separated from everyone else.
Mm-hmm. It's that
I mean,
Steve Harvey.
you probably already knew that.
It's that Steve Harvey on the left.
You
Okay.
said, what about Steve Harvey?
No, I'm just reading one of because somebody asked, "Is that Steve Harvey on the left?"
Oh, someone trolling.
Yeah. Mm.
But oh yeah, yeah, CP he's also a YouTuber here as well. I follow his channel. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up with some of his comments.
Yeah.
Um, let's say uh, I'm just scrolling through. Oh, he was mentioning the whole, how Pan Africanism is a fraud, and it really is because a lot of people don't understand all these little pan because not just Pan Africanism, you have Pan Asian. So you got a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the Asian people trying to come together because a lot of people don't know if you're not within the Asian community. They beef with each other hard.
Mm-hmm.
um, and like Pan Asian, Pan Latino, Pan African. The funny thing is all this Pan Unionism actually comes out of Europe. So it's funny that all these non-European groups try to do these little pan union groups when all of this actually started in Europe under it was like a pan it started I think with Slavic people and it was like a pan Slavic sort of thing and because the Slavic people were across different parts of Europe and even Central Asia because they were the original slaves, hence the name slave. But they were they had a diaspora spread across Eastern Europe and Central Asia, and they started this whole pan-Slavic, um, diaspora sort of thing. And so people who were educated in Europe started that got that idea from them, and that's when you had people come into Africa starting the Pan-Africanist movement. You had uh, people from like South America who were educated in Europe coming back with pan, pan like Latino or Pan American stuff, or Asians who were raised in, you know, and educated in Europe coming back with these Pan Asian ideas. So I find it ironic that people trying to spread the ideas of a unified uh a unified ethnic diaspora got the idea from Europe.
Uh,
I find that pretty ironic when they think that us being more black is talking about being Pan Africanist and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, you realize that's actually a European idea, right? Because
mm,
they always try to say, well, you just stuck on those westernized ideas. You know how they always that was another thing how they always talk about black people being educated. oh, that's just Western education. That's just
Yeah, I heard
Western
that.
ideas.
I heard that shit. Like what Tariq call it? Pleather babble, whatever the hell that shit is. Pleather babble. I heard it all. You know, me, I'm the type of person. I'm like, I ignore it all that. I'm like, man, you
Yeah,
keep
and then,
that
like I said,
pleather babble. I'm looking at my future. Looking at how I'm
yeah, and
going
it's
to
like,
teach myself.
yeah, and I was like, the irony is that all those pan-unionist groups got their idea from Europe because it started with the pan-Slavic
Mhm.
diaspora, and everyone these so it's so when you talk about that, these people don't realize they're talking about ideas from people who were educated in Europe and came back with this idea. So this whole idea that you're using to solidify like our ethnic culture is a Western European idea like that.
Yeah, I mean, my biological used to send me them books and we talk that talk. I'm like, I was never really.
Yeah, well, I mean, like when I was a teenager, I was all into the Afrocentric stuff. Like I said, because my father was at Howard University, there was
Yeah.
like one of those little, one of those bookstores right there in the Howard University campus. I used to go to and buy all those books like They Came Before Columbus, and books by J.A. Rogers about all that sort of Afrocentric stuff, like how we were the original uh Egyptians and all that sort of crap that all that BS that I don't believe now. And I was like, I couldn't believe that, especially after I actually dated an Egyptian girl in college. Marcus can tell you about that. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, and she used to tell me she got offended. Her family, well, I don't know if she personally got offended, but she said her family would get offended when people would say the Egyptians are black. She's like, we're not black. I'm like, well, yeah, but you. I was like, yeah, I agree with that. But it was like, you guys are from Africa, though. She's like, well, yeah, we're from Africa. But the thing is, what people don't understand, a lot of these Afrocentric people never even been to Africa. They don't realize North Africa is not black people. When you're referring to black people, that's sub-Saharan African
Yeah,
people.
I heard that.
Most of the people now, there are black ethnic groups within North Africa, but they're the minority. The
Yeah.
majority of North Africans are Arabs and Berbers.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like the majority of them are Berbers and Arabs. They're a Semitic people. Um, and it's like, and it's so that's why a lot of these people from Egypt and Libya be getting mad when people are like, "Oh, well, you're black. You're from Africa." Like, we're not black.
That's why, now that I'm older, I mean, I used to grow up hearing all that stuff and I used to somewhat listen to it. But now, like with all that, I don't really, I hear it and I'm like, okay, you know, like Tariq say, I look at a lot of it now. I mean, while some of it may have truth, but a lot of it I look at like pleather babble, like Tariq talk about. Yeah.
when it so getting back to what you were talking about a minute
Uh-huh.
ago. So when it comes to financial literacy, do you
Uh-huh.
think do you recommend stuff like Quicken software and stuff like that for people to use, or you think that's like a shortcut?
That's the short. I mean, Quicken is more along the lines of personal, but when it comes down to managing your business, I mean, I always, even though people talking about QuickBooks, I always recommend software for business like QuickBooks, Zero, FreshBooks, things of that nature, because you always want to know what's coming in versus what's coming out. You don't really have to really know accounting, but you just have to have an idea of what's coming in versus what's coming out. And a lot of businesses don't, because everything that comes in and comes out pretty much is your tax return. And what I try to teach business owners nowadays is the information that comes out of your accounting system, that's your taxes. That's really about 60 to 70% of your tax return right there. Then there's other things that you may do, but really the nuts and bolts of everything come out of a clean accounting system.
And especially like if you're a small business owner, like it's one thing if you're a self-employed independent contractor like me, where I should still,
Yeah,
practice good, you know, financial literacy and all that good stuff. But when you're a business owner and you actually have people working for you, you need to be more responsible because now you're not just screwing yourself up; you're going to be screwing other
right.
people up as well.
Right, right. and that's what I kind of, because taxes, I talk about taxes as an afterthought, but I'm the person that comes in to try to be like, okay, before you get to taxes, you need to have a system set up to where you already know how your tax return is going to look or have an idea of it, you know.
Yeah. Do so when we were talking like off camera about like so you set up where you have your YouTube channel where you can give out more information and you have a virtual assistant. Like how is that working for you right now? Is that has that been helping your business a lot?
Oh yeah, yeah. The virtual assistant. I mean, it started to get costly because she started kind of, which I told her in the beginning. She kind of took over everything when it came down to setting up my funnels, like my website, all of my automation and pipelines, and social media. So what I had to do pretty much was streamline what I'm going to work on versus what she's going to work on. And one thing that she has done that really helped me a lot was like put me onto other groups that where I can go on there and look at what they talk about and kind of go back and engage, because what I'm learning right now with the whole social media is not about just having social media just to sell, sell, sell. It's all about engaging and kind of building the audience too. And that's what she really helped me on this. Like, okay, putting me in the right spaces to be able to share my expertise, and
Mhm.
that helped my pages grow. And then she's also good with the technical part of building up funnels and things like that. So I mean, I kind of scaled back a little bit because I'm trying to build up my clientele. But once I get going, then I already have a role for her. She's basically going to handle the social media part, and she's in the Philippines too.
Yeah, that's what I was asking because
Yeah,
I remember when I was on LinkedIn and I was hiring people for my lead generation company at the time. I was just doing like a virtual call center,
yeah,
and I had a bunch of them reaching out to me, not wanting to be one of my telemarketers, but instead trying to be my virtual assistant or a social media manager. I was like, I don't need that yet. I was like, I do have a YouTube channel I'm starting. I was like, but it's not monetized, so I
yeah.
can't pay anyone yet. So
They're really
that was
good
something
for
I was
taking
like,
over certain tasks. Like me,
yeah,
I brought her in just to boost social media because I don't have time to sit around and construct posts and chat and all that. So pretty much her job is social media. Like if she sees somebody on my page and she know the answer, comment on it and just build the engagement. And that's what I primarily use her for.
so at this stage of my, I guess, my YouTube journey, what do you think I need one at this point to like kind of grow? Because I'm trying to, because I think once people get to a certain amount of following, like they can't just do the whole thing on their own. Like sometimes my wife helps me out in the
Yeah.
background with some stuff, but she's busy. Like she's gainfully employed, so she really can't do too much. So I don't demand.
Yeah, at with you at this time, I would probably say no. But as your channel grows and you start to use the channel to get into other things, that's when you can hire. Like, I don't know if you follow, Philip Scott.
Yeah,
He started off at the Advice Show, and I kind of use what he do as a founder because he started really with the YouTube, his channel grew, and then he kind of like branched out in other things and kind of brought in other people to kind of manage certain areas of the business. So that's always my suggestion is when you grow and get to a certain point, then you can bring these virtual assistants in to handle this area while you can focus on something else.
and that was
Bring
another
them in
idea
really to
too.
control, like how I look at it. I bring them in to control like what I'm not really strong at or really what I don't have the time for, so to speak.
Yeah, and that was another idea as you were talking about Philip Scott, like bringing in more talent, so I'm not the only one on the camera. Like
Right.
have people, because I asked my wife because she's actually it wasn't just me, even her friends was like, you travel so much because um you know on her YouTube, I mean, sorry, not YouTube, on her Instagram, she goes by She Knows Places because she travels so much.
Hmm.
And I was like, you could I was like, we could start a separate channel just on, where you travel and this and that. And she was like, I'll think about it, but she's not comfortable behind the camera. That's why I don't have her on as much. Like, every once in a while she'll come on as a favor to me, but she's actually pretty shy. Like,
There's
most
AI
Filipinos, she's
apps
kind of
for that.
shy.
I was on a marketing summit the last 2 days.
Mm,
There's actual AI apps off camera. I can send them to you. There's AI apps that will do it for you. One
mm,
one that I just discovered yesterday is called
Sora?
Notebook LM.
Oh,
And Notebook LM can basically take a transcript that you did, it could take anything. It could even take this, what we talk about tonight. If you kind of put the URL into Notebook LM, it can create a podcast, it can create training video, it can create just a whole bunch of stuff to where you don't even have to be on camera. And it's like,
what?
it, I mean, I did it yesterday. It's like I took a couple of my stuff that I did in the past and I just put it into to Notebook LM, and it created a podcast, a video, infographics. And even with the podcast, I mean, I can tell it's AI, but with the podcast that you create, that it does, you can even interact with it. You can push a button to interact with a podcast off of something that you created. And that's what I'm starting to learn too over time, is that there's a whole lot of AI out there that does all this stuff for you. But
Yeah, I've been hearing about stuff like that. Like, I know you mentioned that to me a few weeks ago, and I was watching MTR. I don't know if you know him, Mediocre
media too,
Tutorial and
yeah, I know.
Reviews.
Yep. Hmm.
He was mentioned on a recent video that, you know a lot of up and coming people in content creation are relying on AI because AI can do a lot, and that's probably one of those things he's probably referring to, stuff like Notebook LM. I'm gonna have to look into that. Like, I've looked into Sora, but Sora wasn't really useful for me. That seemed like that's more useful for people who just want to make, like, stuff on, like, TikTok, or
Yeah,
some Instagram
I
type
learned
stuff.
Sora off of just earlier this week. To be honest, I didn't know about it till earlier this week. And it's like the summit that I was on. Her name is Alicia Little. She's like the queen of AI. And she just
Mm,
put together all these different, showed us all these different applications. Even you can program your chat GPT to do all these different things for you. And there's even something, I'll send it to you when we get off the
okay.
line. It's something that I saw that she has that it can boost your YouTube channel. It's an app online that can boost your YouTube. It's like it'll look at the video, it'll analyze it for you, and it'll tell you what may work, may not work. It'll just give you all the way to word it and do everything. And it kind of like suggests and it does it, and it's supposed to grow your channel. And then she told us
Yeah,
about
I definitely.
a few Gemini, because I know I have a cousin who goes and makes all these crazy videos. I mean, she showed me that on her YouTube, not her YouTube, her Zoom, she have a video of her like she's the Terminator, like half human, half cyborg, and it's playing in the background every time she go on a Zoom, and she uses it a lot for marketing. And I was just so overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that's out there.
Since I don't have the faces, because I definitely would like to bring on more talent and have other people behind the camera with my channel, and I can, like, have separate channels and then all be tied to this one.
Yeah,
Sort of like what Philip Scott and some other folks do. Especially female talent, because people, let's be honest, people would like to see a female behind the camera
there's,
than
there's
my
one
my face.
there's one particular female me and my cousin talk about all the time. What's her name? Um, Danica Marie. Danica.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of her.
Yeah, because I know Donovan was going in. Donovan Sharp was going in on her once. I'm like, bruh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, but he he's got clowned himself.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
know the higher I go up, the less trash I will talk about other content creators. Like it's cool when you're a nobody because no one's gonna like until like I guess you do get big and then they go back to your old videos and be like, oh, he was talking shit about you. But if that happens, I'll just apologize. I'm like, yeah, I said some things about you back in the day, but you know, I apologize because I've definitely taken my snipes at people for saying dumb stuff on camera because that's sort of how I am. I'm just a plain talking guy. That was the reason Marcus told me I should do YouTube. He is like because you know I'm just a straight shooter. I'll say stuff that other
yeah,
YouTubers don't, but that's because they got more to lose. I didn't.
yeah,
But I guess, once you get up there and you actually do have something to lose, you start thinking more about what you say about other people in the same space.
yeah,
Especially, like I said, within the black YouTube, because they're all petty. They're always ready to like out each other and do this and that. It's very low hanging fruit in the black YouTube space. That's why I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna stay within the whole so
the one,
black
the one
manosphere
thing,
type thing.
the one thing about the like a lot of the YouTubers are. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a boring guy. I mean, I like things outside the norm, but it's like a lot of black YouTubers like they'll talk about a topic like in their header that will interest me. But by the time they start the live, it could be like 30 minutes of bullshit, like music and all this fancy stuff before you get to. By the time I go in and after hear like 10 minutes of a nice introduction or 15 minutes of this, that, and the third, it done lost me because while it's entertaining and it's like, okay, when you gonna get to the reason why I'm here. And it's like by the
Yeah,
time they get to that, I'm like, oh, damn.
Yeah, there's this black lawyer. I forgot the name of his YouTube channel, but he does that. He's a guy from Georgia too. You might know who I'm talking about.
I think so.
Um, Bald
I know
head.
what you're talking about.
Uh,
Yeah, I
he
know.
used. I used to watch him, but I couldn't watch him because he would have these 5, 6 hour live streams,
Yeah,
and for the first 3 or 4 hours, he's not even talking about anything. He's just responding to the chat room,
yeah,
and he doesn't get into the meat and bones until like the very end, and it's only about 20 minutes long. So you have to
yeah,
sit around for hours before he
yeah,
actually delves into what the actual topic of the live stream is about. So I was like, I can't watch that.
yeah.
You
That's
know?
he put it in the chat. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't want to save the real. I didn't want to say real CP. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I just I didn't want to say it myself.
and then
I
there's
still like the guy, but he like he I so what I started doing is when some of these people have started like a secondary channel where it just shows the clips of
yeah.
their live stream, I watch that instead. Like Media Man, shout out to him. He's from Maryland. He's a
Okay,
YouTuber from Maryland.
medium. Okay,
Um,
yeah,
he he does a similar stuff with Kevin Samuel, but he addresses everything through like statistics, data, and stuff.
yeah,
But like I said, I don't feel like watching really long videos of people just dragging stuff out. And I know it's kind of hypocritical because I'm doing the very thing right now. But it, I don't want to watch stuff for 2, 3, 4 hours when I could be watching movies
yeah.
or something entertaining. The only person I was willing to do that with was Kevin Samuels because it was entertaining
It's entertaining. Well,
when he would get on when he would like just get in on light people up.
well, I
But
know one sector that seems to get people going is just the Umar Johnson sector. It's just one YouTuber. I don't want to say his name, but he'll do 4, 5, 6 hour YouTube's lives just on Umar. And me and my wife used to watch him Friday night for entertainment. But after a
mm,
while, it just got redundant. It's to the point now, like what more can you say about Umar? Like how much more you can keep dragging this out, And
the
it's just
funny
like it's he'll put it because it's a bait and switch type thing. It's like he'll say, okay, well, Umar this and Umar that, but then when I go watch the channel, it's stuff videos that Umar did way back in 2020.
the funny thing with Umar is I think I was telling your cousin this the other day. When I first heard about him, I thought he was just a parody of I thought he was just a parody of the of like the conscious folk,
Yeah.
the Pan Africanist people. I thought he was a parody. Like, have you ever heard of Mas- Master Ken?
I think so. Yeah.
The guy with the mustache, and he what's the name of his martial art? The I forgot, but he's basically a parody of McDojos.
Oh, okay. I think, yeah, yeah,
The guy that always says, and always remember to restomp the groin. That guy,
yeah. Okay,
Master
yeah,
Ken. So
yeah,
I thought when I first heard of Dr. Umar, that's what I thought he was doing. I thought he was parodying the Pan Africanist group. I didn't know he was actually like serious about it. It was when I found out he was actually serious about it. That's when I couldn't take him seriously. I'm like, this people really follow this guy. Like
yeah.
I thought, I legitimately thought he was a parody.
Hmm.
I didn't know he was like serious.
Yeah. I mean, I learned about him. I think it was like 2016. But he
I think
got me.
I learned about him like around what 2014,
Okay.
2015, something like that.
Yeah.
And like I said back then, I thought he was like, I thought he was just being a comedian, like just doing satire, making fun of like like the pro blackity blacks and conscious folk or whatever. Especially because I couldn't even take the name of his YouTube channel seriously, King Kong Consciousness. Like I was like, this got to be a joke. I was like, this got to be a joke. Like King Kong, really King Kong Consciousness?
What got
Calling
me?
himself, calling himself the Prince of Pan Africanism. I'm like, come on, this guy got. I was like, come on, this guy got to be joke. This has to be a comedian.
Yeah, like I
But
never knew what's
but he
E5.
was dead ass.
Yeah,
He was
E5.
dead ass. Like, that made it funnier to
Yeah,
me.
like it's for me, it's the E5 Tune Day, I date, whatever the hell he be saying. Like I listen to Umar now just for comedy, and that's sort of why how I listen to Tariq
I
Nasheed,
think most. I think most guys do. I think we watch him for comedy. The women are the one who take him seriously.
which I could never understand that. But I think somebody in your chat said about the smooth talking and all that. I could
Yeah,
sort of
my
understand.
my
Like,
moderator Agatha.
yeah,
She
but I'm
she
like, at
said he
what
was a smooth
point?
talker.
But I'm like, at what point do you see that he's not like, you know, like
It,
really?
look, it is weird what women will gravitate to. A good example of that was when I had joined well, not joined. I actually started a multicultural fraternity with some friends on college. And as soon as I did, like women were looking at me differently, even though we didn't even have an established name as a fraternity because we literally started it um, on the campus, and then we even started a new umbrella organization for all the non for all the fraternities and sororities that either didn't fit within the the Pan Hellen, the PHC,
Yeah,
or in the I forgot what the white one is called, the IFC or something like that. Because you got, I think, like you have the Pan Hellenic Council, then I think you have the interfraternity council and all that sort of stuff. So we started a whole new um um umbrella organization for all these other. So it spread to other campuses, and then we even had a sister organization, and they're all over the place. I think they've even went international now.
hmm
Uh, and I like women were treating me completely different. Like I literally had this girl, I was friends with, and I went Greek, and she came over she wanted to come over my place, and she instantly said like, "Can I see your paddle? The paddle we get the fraternities." And she's like, "Can you spank me with it?" I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I'm like, wow, okay. So I was getting all sorts of like I understand. This is why brothers used to hate on guys that went Greek because they was like, "Oh, y'all just doing it just to get some butt." I'm like, not really, but that is a perk.
hmm
One guy knew because I'd almost became a Sigma, and this one dude, and Marcus knows him too. You can ask him. This guy named Chris Atian. He was slaying them across campus. It was ridiculous. Especially he even had a cool he even had a cool cosign, like his name was Soul Survivor, because he was the only one in his line that crossed. Like
Hmm.
the whole line dropped except for him. So
Hmm.
his nickname became Soul Survivor, which was prescient at the time because that's when Jeezy came out with the song.
Yeah.
So
Soul Survivor.
I think that's
Yeah.
why he got I think that's how he got the name from that. And he was slaying him, but he was mad cool. Dude was mad cool, but he was cool. The president of the segment, because I almost joined them and I decided not to. At the same time, I had received a bid from a white fraternity
Hmm.
because I was boarding at this white frat house at the time, and I never even asked them to join. But because they liked me, because I used to hang out with them, they gave me a bid to join. The irony is, I never asked, whereas my roommate, this Indian dude, was trying to join them, but they didn't like him, so they didn't even give him a bid. So that would have been the ultimate slap in the face if I had joined, even though I didn't ask, and he asked to join, and they rejected him. So it's
Wow.
like I had two fraternities at the same time. Like one that I actually wanted to join, the was part of the BGLO, and then a white fraternity. And looking back at it now, I probably would have joined them, knowing, in hindsight, because I would have had those connections. Because some of these were some of these people in those white fraternities had like deep connections. Like their parents were like, you know,
Yeah.
well connected. So yeah, man, women treat you differently, like just for whatever reason. Like these women and then a lot of women who are non-black try to get at him just for the fact that he says he doesn't like non-black women. That
Mm.
makes them try all the more harder to get at him. And
Yep.
I'm thoroughly convinced that you cannot convince me otherwise unless I get hard evidence that he is not smashing snow bunnies and rice bunnies. I know he's smashing rice bunnies because like I said, he said on his video, he told the Filipino girl, he said, "No," he said, "Y'all," he said, "Y'all black sisters too." And you can ask your cousin because we both watched the same video. He sent the video to me
Yeah.
because at first I told him, I'm like, man, I'm not watching this goofball. I was like, I can't take him seriously. He was like, no, man, just watch it. He's like, she's talking. He's like, he tells her like, she's black too because he's just trying to clap. I'm like, yeah, probably. But I was
Probably.
like, yeah. I was like, you can't tell me this man is traveling all over Europe and Australia and he's not clapping cheeks. I don't believe it.
I
Like
know,
he
but
like
I
he's gonna find the one black woman in Stockholm, Sweden, and smash. Like, okay.
but I know without somebody, few women came and put his business out there.
Oh,
um.
and then that one time he got caught. What was it, like at a little outside cafe or something when
Yeah.
he was like flirting with the little white chick or whatever. He was like, he had to come on. I did not mess with the snow bunny, my brothers. I did not mess with the snow bunny, my brothers. I did not mess with the snow bunny,
I
my
remember I
brothers.
saw
He
that
said,
one.
I was just being polite, my brothers. I was
Mhm.
just being, uh, like I said, if he was a parody, he would be so much more successful because it's funny. Like I
That's how
said,
I
if he
look
was
at
just
it.
a
Just
if he was just a parody character of Pan Africanist, it would be so much better.
yep.
He would actually have a more lucrative career as parodying them than instead of actually pretending to be the leader of them, calling himself the Prince of Pan Africanism and King Kong consciousness. Like just those titles alone, I cannot take seriously.
Yeah.
Like that just screams like like satire.
Yep. Yep.
It's, it's like when you have people that goofy who are really in the movement, I, there, there's no room for satire because he's literally already a joke.
That's true. That's true. Well, I enjoyed our conversation tonight. It's getting kind of
Yeah,
a little bit
it's
late.
getting up there in time.
Oh, I didn't realize 12:08.
Yeah, I was looking at myself because I'm still stuck an hour behind because I never changed my changed my clock to regular time. It's still in daylight savings time, so
Oh,
I'm
wow.
always thinking it's late. I'm always thinking it's later than what it really is, which actually is a
Yeah.
good thing because that keeps me actually early.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't even change it from daylight savings time. So I was like, oh, okay, it's 1 o'clock. I need to get off because I could have swore it was like 3 a.m. last night when I got off, and I think it was like around 2, which is still late for me. But
Yeah.
I didn't realize that my live had went for like 3.5 hours.
Oh, he gets
Yeah.
up there because I'm looking at how long we've been on. I'm like, wow. But our lives are always good, though. I enjoy them.
So someone said, yeah, at least he's going to open a school for the kids in 2056. I think that's a joke. I think that's a joke because I'm, I'm pretty sure that was a joke. Well, my one of my moderate. Oh, no, yeah, Yamaleth Mia
Yeah.
Moore. Are you
Yeah.
joking, Yamaleth? Because you know the FDMG Academy is not opening up. They already like closed that building down. He lost it because he wasn't taking care of his financial situation like my brother here is telling people to do. Before you go, can you give them some information? Because I know Real CP was asking, can you give some
Yeah.
information? But
Yep.
Vikings don't. I hope you didn't delete Real CP. He's not a troll.
Yeah. Well, you
Real
can
CP is not
find
a troll Viking.
yeah. You can find me on my YouTube channel. Is Simplified Accounting, and also
Yeah,
my
and I
business.
tagged you in the
Okay.
I tagged your channel in the title as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, so you can find me there. I talk about more financial literacy, bookkeeping, automation, business, things of that nature. I may shift my focus a little bit more on my channel because, like I said, I've been around since 2017. But that's mostly what I talk about. But you can find me Simplified Accounting. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So appreciate that, man,
Yep.
for all the info. Hopefully,
Thank.
like if people want to reach out to you, they can get some more information.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I
All
think
right.
this lady's definitely trolling. She would say, "Yeah, we need HVAC and plumbing brothers and sisters. Please cash out $1,200 to the Marcus Garvey Academy." I don't know what she's on. She
Okay. Yeah, probably the school open by the time I pay off my mortgage, maybe.
yeah. Now they offering 50-year mortgages according to Trump because yeah, I want to be paying a mortgage for half a century.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, it's good talking to you, and I'll
You
send you
too, man.
I'll send you the information too.
All
That'll
right,
be
and now once you do that, I'm gonna link it
okay.
for the rebroadcast
Okay.
for the replay of this live.
Okay. Then when you do that, I'll also show you the AI app and what it can
Okay,
do. You will love it.
I
Trust
appreciate it.
me. Yep. All right.
All
It's good
right,
talking.
brother. Thank you.
And bye to your chat. Enjoyed the conversation. So I look forward to our conversation again.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll
Take care.
talk. All right. Good night.
All right.